think it's great to empower women and talk about it.
I want to have an honest conversation.
We have to give ourselves a break, and we have to take a breath.
Like, I'm not perfect, but there isn't much I won't try.
Some days it works,
some days it doesn't.
CNG Media.
Hi, welcome back to Real Moms, Real Talk. I am your host, Cathy Moyano, and on today's episode, we are going to be talking about being in the thick of it when it comes to raising your kids. So what I mean by that is your kids in this stage are past the toddler stage, and they are in grammar school, so you're dealing with school functions, sports, play dates, things like that, and everything else that comes along with it. So today, my guest is the beautiful Eliana. She's a full-time working single mom of two, and in addition to being a full-time mom, she is also a real estate agent. She does hair on the side for special events and weddings, and I'm so happy to have her here today.
Thank you.
Because this is going to be a great show today. So welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you're
so nice
here.
to see you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. So how old are your kids?
My kids are my daughter just turned 9. She's the oldest. And my son is going to be 8 in May. So they're a year and a half, exactly 16 months apart.
Wow.
I feel like it's easier now as they're getting older, but it's hard when they're like that close and like very little.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're 7 and 9.
So they're in what grades are they in?
2nd and 3rd grade.
Okay.
Yeah, back to back.
Yeah.
And they're actually in the school where I teach at the moment. So it's
Well,
kind
that's
of like
very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's simplified my anxiety to the max. Like,
I'm sure,
it's been
especially
amazing,
being a
yeah.
single mom, because
Yeah,
there's
for sure.
a lot that falls on you when you're raising two kids. But you do share the
Yes.
kids with their father.
Yeah,
So
so
that does help a little bit as far as
yeah,
juggling all
absolutely.
that.
And having like not having the burnout. But I feel like I deal with a different kind of burnout
Of
where
course.
it comes like I have them full time. Like I don't have the ability to say, you know, hey hon, like I'm going for a walk, or
Right.
like, hey hon, let me
Right.
step outside real quick, or I'll be right back, I forgot something at the store. Like, so when I'm with them, I'm like,
You're on.
I have to have 10 hands. And then by the time I'm not, it's like now I have to refuel myself, get everything done like on my own in the household.
Right, so you're
like
getting
all
up
the
extra
other
early.
Right. So, and then I have to worry about like my friendships that, you know, have been, you know, were dropped during the week, or like the text I didn't answer, and just catching up with my social life, my energy.
Everything.
Everything.
It's a hard balance.
It is.
It's
It
very
is.
hard. And I don't think it's an equal balance, because I don't think there's not enough time in the day to conquer all of that.
Right.
So I feel myself, when I remember being in that stage, it's great. It's tiring. It's chaotic.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to kind of let go of certain things. You know, my house was not perfectly cleaned all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's certain expectations, or you may see certain things on social media, and it's like, oh, you know, do this, do that, and then poof. No, that's not reality. Right? So if you're living out of your laundry basket, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Still.
I have a little bit of OCD, so I feel like the best way I can manage it, or the best way that I try to, you know, have everything put together, I mean, again, not perfect, but is coming up with systems. So I have like in my mind a system of like when I do things in the house, when I say yes to things, like literally every day of my week is like
Planned out?
dedicated to something different. So like I know that like Monday, Tuesday is like in the thick of school and you know, homework and after school activities, track, blah blah blah, you know, bringing them to practice, coming home, doing dinner, and then in the rush. And then Wednesdays is the day that they go to their dad during the week.
So then do you use Wednesdays for a little bit for yourself then?
I try, but so a little voice in my head decided that it was a great idea to go to grad school. So now I'm back in grad school.
That's fantastic.
And
On top of being a realtor.
Right.
Right. On top of doing hair.
Uh-huh.
And then since we do talk often, and I always love our conversations, you also have aspirations on writing a book. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
And you're raising 2 kids. You're running
Yeah.
a household. So what do you think is in you or part of your personality, let's say, or that you want to do all these things? Not that you're necessarily, and correct my words, not satisfied with just being a mom, because being a mother is an extremely important, beautiful job, but you want more.
Yeah.
You want more out of life, it seems like. And I think we always talk about that when we happen to bump into each other.
Yeah.
And I love that because I want more too. So what do you think is in you that grad school, the book, let me do hair, let me be a real estate agent, let me start doing projects around my house and maybe go down that path too?
I feel like it's, excuse me. I feel like I just want to live my entire life, like whether I'm now 37 or like 90, I want to always be in the mindset of like, I want to grow, I want to learn more, I want to explore. I'm just always have this like curiosity where like if I see something like, oh, that's really cool, like it just sparks this like energy inside me and I roll with it. Like
I love that. I think that's beautiful.
People have asked me that before on both ends, kind of like, that's great. I love that you do that. And then other people are just like, why do you do that to yourself? You're always doing something. Like, just calm down. And I'm like, but it's not that. I do it to myself. Like when I'm in the stress of like everything, like, oh, I'm trying to balance. I'm like, you know what? They're right. You do have to find a balance between slowing down and never slowing down. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
So
I think a lot of mothers also, which happened to me when my kids were your age, like that's it. That's your world at that point, right? That's all you're worrying about, the household, whether you have a partner or not. But I lost myself a little bit, right? Like wanting more.
Especially in the beginning when the kids are little and you have to be in that, like the baby fog. They're born and you're in the baby fog. And that's beautiful. Honestly, I look back and as stressful as those times were, in the very beginning, I also was going through like a lot, like separation. My kids were like really young. We're going through like court issues and all this stuff. But it was hard, but I really enjoyed being in it. Like I remember almost like moments ingrained in my mind where I was like in the moment and like in the house. And I'm like, it's okay to not be anywhere else right now, to not like be out with my friends. Oh, my friends are out. And like some people go through that where they're just like in their head about like, oh, I'm home all the time and it's, I'm losing myself and blah, blah. I really like in the moment when my kids were tiny, I was like on the floor with them, like just crawling with them and like napping with them, and I really, really enjoyed that. As hard as it was, I never really said like, I want to be out, I want to be somewhere else, I want to be doing
I did
this,
that too. I remember when my first I remember when my first was born, I kind of almost removed myself from life, so to speak. But that's what I chose to do then.
Right. And it's beautiful to be in it. And now looking back, I'm so grateful that I was that way because now it's changing. And that's what life is. Like, you're always going to be changing even as a mom.
Yes.
And now I look back and I'm like, I'm so glad I did that. And now, I get to do something else. Like, and also, I'm a mom, but I can do all these things. And I had to
and I've always admired that about you because you didn't let your circumstances stop you, like you said before your separation. You didn't allow that to stop you from still taking care of yourself and wanting that more for yourself. And you're only in your 30s, which I think is beautiful because someone like me, for example, I'm 48 approaching that midlife and I'm like, I wish I would have done a few things differently, pertaining to myself. So now my kids are older, so their needs of me are a little bit different, right? I don't really have to take them. I'm done with the carpools.
Yeah. Are you?
I am.
I'm just starting.
But they were such a help, right? Like, you need the carpools. You need a village during the stage that you're in right now because you cannot do it yourself.
Yeah.
Whether you're a single mother or even, if there's a 2-parent home, it's a lot.
Right.
And I think society's not even friendly to us mothers because you have to drop your kids off at school by, let's say, 8:30, 8:40, and your job starts at 9.
Oh no, societally it's like you have a baby and then 6 weeks, boom, you're expected
Yeah.
to go like back to work and like everything to be normal, and it's not. Like nothing is normal.
Nothing
again,
is normal.
after you have a child. And I feel like it's different for women in that sense too, because the expectation societally, the expectation in your household for you is on you. Societally is on you. With your kids, it's on you.
It's
like
on you.
the demand on
and
your
then
body.
even culturally, depending
like,
on how you were raised.
Right.
Right?
Oh, yeah. And
All
your
that.
family and friends, it's like eyes on you and what
Yes.
you're doing and the way you're doing it, and are you doing it right? And you have all these opinions, and it's overwhelming,
It's
for,
very
for
overwhelming.
women.
And
it's
not
a lot.
fair. And we
No.
have to give ourselves a break.
Yeah.
And we have to take a breath.
Yes.
And
And it takes time to get to that point as a woman and as a mom to just say, you know what, I'm creating what I want for myself. And when you have a baby, like, no, I'm creating what I want motherhood to look like.
Correct.
And then in your career, like, no, I'm creating. I had so many people tell me, like, we were talking before about, I'm in real estate and I do hair and I do all these different things, and I've had people come at me and say, what is it, the saying? Jack of all trades, but master of none. And I used to get offended in the beginning. I'm like, no, actually, I don't feel that way. I feel like
I can do all those
try.
things.
Like there's a lot that I can't do. Like I'm not perfect, but there isn't much I won't try.
Going back to what you said before,
love
like by
that.
the time, I love that about you too. And by the time you turn 90, me too, I don't want to have too many I should have
Moments, right?
moments
Right. Yeah.
when that time comes. I want to have a lot of, so glad I tried.
Yes.
Even though everything's not going to be great, maybe not even work out, but I just want to try. And I am a little nervous, like we were talking before, about what people are going to say, right? Because everybody's going to have an opinion. Like people, even maybe your closest friends, when they tell you, why are you doing all that? Because I want to.
Yeah.
And I have the right to do so.
Yes.
And
it's nobody else's business. Like, you're putting it out there, you're putting yourself out there because this is what you enjoy and this is what you want to do and this is what the life you want to create or the career you want to create or the path you want to create, whether it's for now or whether it's forever.
And I want to show my kids.
Who cares? Yeah, and you want your kids to see you as a mom and say, wow, like my mom, she did
this.
everything and she tried or she's happy and she loves herself, which is a big one for like when I think about what I want my daughter to see. And I'm like, she loves herself. She tries new things. She's not afraid of what other people think.
And that comes from you and the example that you're setting for her, even without verbally telling her.
Yeah, and you too.
I hope.
So
Mine's 14, so, that stage is...
they're very critical now. But create something different and make a new story for her.
It's awesome. So do you have... I know before you ended... before you started at this school where your kids go, you were at a different school. So you had the juggling of, it was daycare or, did you have a support system? Like, did your parents help you?
Oh,
did you have a
yeah.
carpool with other moms in your neighborhood, for example, to help you out?
Oh, yeah. If it wasn't for, honestly, my parents, like, when I was separating from the kid's dad, like, I had to fall back on them, and they were just a great help, even just going back and resetting and taking the time to finish going through all the craziness and then saying, okay, where do I want to go from here? So my parents were big hands in like, all right, stay here, come with the kids. And a lot of the times, like, there's shame in that too. It's like, well, I went back to my parents' house, with my tail between my legs, and that sucks. Because you think like, oh, society's, she's 30-something, 2 kids and living with her mom again. We have to think about all these things of like the outsiders that are infiltrating our lives, and it's like, no, I stopped there. I was able to do,
and it was
so
temporary.
much. Yeah, it was temporary and just a stopping point and resetting. But my parents, I have been a great support that time. Even now, when I was working at the different school, I was living in one town, working 20 minutes out from that town, and then my mom would pick up my kids in my town and bring them back to her town. So it was like a triangle of commuting.
And then you
for
get out of
me.
work, you got to pick your kids
Pick up my
up.
kids up in her town and then go back home. And it was like just craziness and that momxiety that we've labeled it like momxiety. I would be like at work at the time, pick up like, all right, is somebody there? And then,
or when you send your kids with a little bit of a sniffle, right? And you're at
Oh
work,
my
you're like,
God.
oh
And
God,
the
please make it
guilt.
through the day. Please make it through the
Yeah,
day
and
because
then
I don't
the
know if I
mom
can leave to
guilt.
pick you up.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like I can't take off some time from work. And so my mom, was a great support during that time too. That's why I now in the school system in the district where I'm working, it's just been
A godsend.
such a relief.
Yes.
Because that momxiety just dissipated almost immediately. Like I go to one place, 5 minutes.
Yep.
I'm in the same town that I live in, I'm working in, and I'm bringing my kids, and I get to leave with them, and it's just been.
So how do you find time then, let's say, to carve out for, let's say, doing hair or real estate or writing this book? Do you, when the kids are with their dad, is that when you now are like, okay, it's me time, whatever that me time is, whether you're taking a walk by yourself or, I don't know, doing a new house project or writing a chapter of your book?
So nice,
right? It always sounds so nice until you're there. You're like,
yeah,
I don't want to do anything
I
right now.
Mentally compartmentalize my week. So my days of the week, and I know that Monday, Tuesday's a craziness. Wednesday is the day that I have to feels like I'm shoving everything into one day. So I have to do the some time to relax, some time for my schoolwork, and then I have to catch up on the house things, and then do book my hair appointments or and actually I've learned to
say no.
To say no, but also to I can't do all of it all the time.
Correct.
So I know that real estate is I can take on one client at a time.
And you're okay with that?
And that'll be primarily every other, if I have a client at the moment, it's every other weekend. I'm boom, 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 boom. And then I'm realistic and honest about, this is the times that we're going to work on, I'm going to send you things during the week, but just fitting everything into literally those, the one day in the middle of the week and then every other weekend, deciding whether or not I have a client or if I'm going to do hair that weekend.
My Wednesdays are actually similar too, because that's the one day I get to work from home, right? So the fact that I don't have to shower and commute and be somewhere by 9 o'clock. So I am actually at ShopRite usually at 7 a.m. A load of laundry at 7:30, 8, because I have to get it done.
Yeah.
My job is not one where I can, let's say, log on and then walk away. It's not project based. You have to be on your computer. You have to be ready to answer phone calls. So you're at your desk whether you're home or not. And then my lunch break is prepping dinner. And then,
my goodness.
Oh yeah. And then 5 o'clock comes and my commute up the stairs is putting dinner in the oven and finishing the laundry. So my Wednesday's your Wednesday.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm cramming everything in
into
there.
the one spot.
Yes.
Into the one compartment. It's hard.
It is hard.
But like you said before, saying no has been such a hard lesson for me, because when you're doing it, you get excited about all these things. Like we said, we want to do these things. We want to grow. We want to learn. We want to try a bunch of things. But there comes a point where it feels like at least for me, it felt like I was juggling wonderfully. And then at one point, it's just I dropped everything. And I'm like, I don't know how to function with all of these tasks.
Because it's too much.
And all of these things to do. And it does become too much at one time. Wanting it. So you have to learn to say no, even to clients sometimes. It's yes, this is going to be, bring in more money, but I can't overexhaust and burn myself out to the point where I'm going to drop or, not do my best.
So you're
with
implementing
my clients.
boundaries.
Right. Boundaries for sure.
Yeah, which is something I've learned to do in 2023.
Yes. And definitely not worrying about the outsiders and who's going to say what. And at the end, just being so in yourself and I guess who you, just...
Who you are.
Yes.
And what you want to do at this time.
And not worrying about what anyone else is going to say.
Yes.
So actually, Dr. Shefali has this great... she actually has a book right now. It's called Can I talk about somebody else's book? Okay.
Of course you can. We'll be back soon to talk about yours. Don't you worry. Yeah.
The Awakening.
Yes.
Yes. So Dr. Shefali, and
I started that book. I didn't finish it yet.
It's great.
You finished it?
No, I didn't finish it.
Okay.
I'm still in the middle of it. But what I've pulled from this wonderful quote is that there comes a time in your life as a woman that you just decide that you're going to shed.
Yes, I have the quote. Let me read it to you. Because you're the one that...
Good, you're going to explain it better.
Yeah, well, you're the one that gave me the book, and then you told me to read this poem. So I remember
The Radical Awakening.
Yes, A Radical Awakening. So I read this poem, and I remember being so profoundly just, wow. And I had to read it a few times to really let it sink in and what it means. And there's really do we have time for me to read this whole poem? Okay. So I'm going to read this whole poem because it's just beautiful. And there's really certain parts of it that really speak to me personally. So the name of the poem is A Radical Awakening. Excuse me. There comes a time in the life of a woman when she discards her old ways like tossed shoes in the garbage, when she shreds her list of shoulds and obligations, and when impossible expectations are burned in an incinerator. There comes a time in the life of a woman when the approval of others, once jewels, now turn to pennies in her sock, when the hunt for another is now replaced by a hunt for herself. I could cry. And when paternal tentacles of tradition no longer define her truth, there comes a time in the life of a woman when her desire to fit in with the crowd dissolves, when her maniac compulsion to be perfect vaporizes.
Yeah. And
when her obsession to be voted popular eviscerates. There comes a time in the life of a woman when she simply says, no more. I'm going to stop there. I think I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry because
when we're young as women, or as, in childhood, I don't know about the male perspective, but you like teenagers, they're learning to, go with the crowd, the thing, what they want to do, being out in the world,
and girls sometimes more so than boys.
Yeah, feeds you with this desire to want to fit in and what other people think and all this stuff. And we're molded that way for so long within society that it is just you get to that point, like the poem says, and it's just no, I can't. I just have to be in my rawness and my realness as a mom and just think and focus on what do I want to feed my kids for the next generation? What do I want to be in their mind? How do I want them to grow and think?
And sometimes that doesn't agree with what we were taught.
Right.
And how we were brought up.
Yeah.
And then you have to be okay with those challenges too.
My son came to me yesterday with one of his friends at school said something mean about him, and then he was he's so sensitive, my little one. He was upset. He's like, Mom, my friend said something about me and I got mad, but he also said something about you. It was like a mom joke. And I was like, do I know him? Does he know who I am? And he's like, no. And I'm like, then he doesn't. And I forgot what it said. I was like, I'm not offended. I shouldn't be upset, because I could see the tears forming in his eyes, and he was really upset that somebody said something bad about me. And I'm like, buddy, he doesn't have my permission to upset me. I'm not giving anybody permission to upset me. I choose that. And I felt in the moment, too, you have those moments with your kids, and I'm I could have cried, but I wanted to just hold it, because it wasn't crying that upset that because of what happened, but because of what I wanted to feed him in that moment. I wanted to see that somebody on the outside isn't going to affect me.
You can't allow them to.
Yeah, and I want him to learn that now as a little kid, because I didn't grow up that way.
I did not either.
At all. And I want, for sure, both my kids, especially my daughter, as a female, with, growing up with all these pressures, to know that, they are the ones that can give permission or not to be hurt by other people.
Agreed.
And that's been such a big, lesson in everything that I've gone through, when, being a single mom and doing that when my kids were young and having to grow from that. That probably was the biggest lesson, is I'm not going to give my permission for anybody to judge me, to decide what's going to happen to me next, or decide how I'm going to move on from this, and, you know, whether or not it's going to affect who I am as a person and who I am as a, you know, in business and as a professional. And I'm going to rock it because that's what I want to do. And
so
that's
when
what I want
you
my
have a
kids to
TED
see.
Talk, don't forget us little people.
Oh, no.
And I will be on your book trail.
I'm actually very excited to.
I am so excited. I can't wait ever since you told me, which was, you know, months ago. But everything takes time. But it was so great talking to you today.
Yes,
and I hope you come
I love
back.
this. I
'cause
definitely will.
There's so many more things I actually want to talk to you about motherhood and everything else that we touched on today. But keep writing that book.
Thank you. I
and
will.
keep being you. And I think you are going to make a great impact in your children's lives.
Thank you.
So thank you.
I can't wait to see this podcast all over too.
Thanks.
Like, did you hear
Me
that? Are you listening to Kat's podcast? I love it.
Thanks.